Good morning all, it's the Goateed Sloth here, welcoming you to Slow Hands Fast Cars. We're not in a rush, but we are trying to get faster. Today I thought we'd go into a really brief discussion about a critical part of RC racing, and that's transponders. Bear in mind, my knowledge is minimal, but I'm just doing this because we had some new people attend the club on the weekend and were asking me specifically about what we need and stuff like that. So I stepped up and had a chat, told them what I thought, and nearly forgot about the transponders. So we'll just go through this briefly so they can have a look at this and go, that's the information I didn't get. So let's start from the beginning. What is an RC transponder? Well, it is essentially a small electronic device. It attaches to your car and emits a unique identification code. That's pretty important. As you race, antennas or wiring loops, timing loops, a different name, can be installed under the track or above the track, and those loops will read the code that your transponder is emitting. That allows the race software that you're running, each track could be running completely different stuff, and then it picks up and goes, here's your position and here's your lap times. I think it does it down to the thousandths of a second, so it's pretty accurate. Just so you're aware though, every form of racing uses some kind of transponder. Okay, drone racing, sea racing, real world motorbike, real world drag, all of them will use a transponder of some description. That's how they pretty much get it. It's not going to be the RC one, but they do run transponders. Same with Speedway. Everything runs something. Okay, there's got to be a way to time it, and we're done with the days of sitting there with a stopwatch and individual stopwatches for every single vehicle that goes past. So just be aware that it is kind of critical. For this video though, I will be concentrating on the MyLapse RC4, as this is the most common transponder system used here in Australia, and it is definitely the one that we have at our club. However, what I'm about to discuss is general concepts that will apply pretty much across the board. Now, most transponders will be powered via your receiver. Usually drawing power from an auxiliary channel 3, 4, 5 or 6. Most race cars aren't going to need any more than 2 channels. You just need to be able to turn it and you need to make it go and stop. Alright, so there's your 2 channels for that. Use the 3rd, use the 4th, use the 5th. Some other channels are going to be dedicated to certain areas, but each car is going to be slightly different, but you should be able to just whack it in channel 3 and you'll be good to go. However, if you only have a 2-channel receiver, that's not ideal, but you can still get away with it. You can do it by getting yourself a AC transponder splitter, or an RC transponder splitter, for a servo Y harness, is what they're technically called. You can literally just plug that into your receiver and you can piggyback 2 things off it, and it'll get the power to run the transponder and do either the steering or the throttle control. It doesn't need much power, okay, and it just transmits a simple signal, so it can run off anything really. It won't interfere coming back as well because it's just going one way. Okay, now they're the key points. Pretty much they're all going to run that way. Okay, location. I think where you put your transponder is very important, and I don't think it gets discussed enough. Essentially, it should always be mounted depending on your scoring loop location. Most tracks are going to have their scoring loop run under the surface. Okay, that's fine. It just means you've got to mount your transponder on the lower part of your chassis. That way it's closer to the ground. However, you can have over-track scoring loops. Okay, it might be just a simple bridge, beam, anything like that. Or run along one side, come back around the other. Okay, in those instances, if you're running on them, something like a Kyoshi Mini Z track will probably do it. Some road tracks I've seen, because they're not really jumping, they're just going on a flat surface. I would be mounting those on the shell. Alright, that's as high as you can get it. A little bit of Velcro, stick it on there, just be aware it's there, and you're not going to rip it off when you try to take your shell off. You can just reach under the shell, pop it off. So I would mount it depending on what you're running, as far as height goes. The moving forward though, this I think needs a bit more specification within each club. A little bit more discussion would probably be needed to make it aware for newcomers. Generally speaking, if you're just running around there in a practice session, your transponder is going to pass over the marker and it's going to be at the same spot on your car every time. So you're going to get a pretty accurate reading of your lap times, okay? Where I feel it becomes important is the visual relationship when it comes to racing. Okay, so if I mount my transponder at the very start of my car, let's say I put it right at the front of the car, and the person I'm racing has it right at the back, okay? That means if my front is just a smidgen ahead of their rear, it's going to track me as crossing the line first. So if we come around that corner, that last corner, and it's been a humdinger of a battle all race and we're having an absolute rip snorter and loving life, I'm going to get the win, even though he could, or they could be a long way ahead, like nearly a car length ahead. So visually, we think they're going to get the win, but I'd get it. So I think that needs a little bit more of a discussion at a club level. I haven't heard that discussed. It doesn't mean it isn't discussed at other clubs, just at mine it isn't discussed. But in general, get it as far forward as you can and as close to your timing loop as possible. Now this is where it comes a little bit trickier, okay? Most of the RC4 stuff is going to be a short cable. Now I'm running a Traxxas / two-wheel drive, a little bit damaged. We'll get into that. Where the receiver box is located, the cable wouldn't even get halfway up the side. I really wanted to move it down the front. You can just get, I think they're called a servo cable extension, couple of bucks, just about any hobby store is going to have them. Whack it on, you'll be able to extend the distance, all right? So when you do get a transponder, you're probably going to need one of those. It's $2, let it hang around just for the time you do need it, okay? So definitely you're going to have to look at that. So you're going to have to look at physical location, as forward front as possible, and as close to your timing loop as possible on the chassis. Okay, so servo extension, transponder, good to go. All right, that's pretty much all you really need to know about the fine workings. Every single one of the RC4s has a unique identification code printed on the front of the transponder. If you've got eyes like mine, you have to go call your young boy in and say, can you read out that number so I can put this in the system? But that's how they identify it. Every single transponder will have a different code, especially within the range. So the RC4s will have different, I can't guarantee that the RC4s will have a different number compared to other manufacturers, okay? So how do you mount a transponder? This is where it gets a bit of fun. Look, screws. The RC4 standard transponder comes with a holder, little cool holder with 3 screw mounting panels. Now I've found on the front of the Traxxas / two-wheel drive, there's actually 2 screw holes that line up perfectly with that holder. Would be nice to have a third, but you know, beggars can't be choosers. And if I could find some screws that'll fit, bang, that's where I'm putting it. I need the extension to get there, okay? Failing that, if I didn't have them, I would mount a little bit of Perspex on there and double-sided tape it on there. That'll work. You could glue it on there. You could screw it into your chassis however you want. I didn't use any of those options for my first race. I went old school. Blue tack. Worked. It worked a treat, actually. It was probably the best solution I had. This car was a handful for my boy to get around the track, and he had an absolute poleaxe of a big accident. Snapped the front, oh geez, I can't remember what it is, where the arm attaches to the body. Clean snapped it. Bulkhead, the front bulkhead, just snapped it clean off. And the ECS that I'd mounted, poof, that took off. He had a ripper, but the transponder didn't move. All right, I just used a little bit of blue tack, smeared it out over the holder as thin as I could, pressed it onto the thing and left it alone for a couple of hours. No problems. Wouldn't recommend it, but it was the only option I had at the time. I wasn't going to glue or tape or screw up the chassis at the point where it could reach, and I couldn't get it to where I wanted. So when I get the extension, I'll figure out a better system. But hey, it worked. Worked under load too. So which specific RC4 are you going to need? Okay. This is where I got confused a bit. The RC4 stuff, you've got to be a little bit careful. So there's the hybrid version. This comes with 2 wires, all right? The 2-wire version works with the RC2, the RC3, and the RC4 systems, all right? I can't really comment on that. I haven't used the hybrid, but apparently it works fine. There is the RC4 system, which just has 3 wires, and that's how you can identify between the two. They look identical, except one has 2, one has 3. The 3-wire one just works with RC4. Look, works a treat. That's what I've got. No problems at all, okay? However, you can get a Pro RC4 version. Smaller, looks sleek, looks nice, shorter cable, great for buggies. You will need an extender if you run it anything else, but it doesn't come with a holder. It's slightly more expensive, but it does look cool. All right, and it's only like 3 grams. It's ridiculously light. So they're the 3 different versions. Most hobby stores in Australia are only selling the RC4 at this point. I think Speedy RC do a trade-in. If you've got one of the old ones, you send it to them, you can get a new one for like $100 and it saves you $80. It'd be mad not to try it. So make sure, as we've discussed, go to your club, chat to your club, get the right transponder. Install it, have some fun. Okay, it's great stuff. Get involved. I hope this clears up a little bit about transponders. It's a pretty simple concept, but everyone needs to learn something. Okay, so I'm out of here. It's too bloody cold to be sitting in this room. This is the Goateed Sloth reminding you, take it easy on the trigger, send it on the straights, and remember, even a sloth can go full throttle.